On the surface, When Life Gives You Tangerines looked like another big hit, a sweeping love story covering 50 years. But behind the scenes, something wasn't right in those tangerine fields. What if we told you that while viewers were falling in love with the romance on screen, some cast and crew were going through a nightmare? Well, the team behind this popular show is now being accused of treating people so badly, it's making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Every scandal has a starting point. This one began with a single post on X that started it all. Someone from the When Life Gives You Tangerines prop team went online to complain about the production's wild behavior. At first, their story sounded almost unbelievable. They said the crew had no idea how to handle the large props and even damaged rented equipment, then acted like it was no big deal. For instance, the crew supposedly spray-painted a rented vintage bus with cheap lacquer bought from a hardware store. When they got caught ruining the paint, the person responsible casually said, "Can't you just use lacquer thinner to remove it?" The prop team member remembered it clearly, pointing out how clueless and careless it all was. But that was only the beginning, because the post revealed a pattern of bad behavior on set. The whistleblower said the higher-ups would often mess up props and set pieces just because they didn't know better, and when anyone asked questions, they were rude about it. For many fans, this was already upsetting, but it turned out to be just the beginning. No one could have imagined the even darker details that were coming next. The complaints from the prop team hinted that things weren't right behind the pretty Jeju Island scenes. Still, being careless doesn't automatically mean there's a scandal, right? It could have stopped there, but more people were about to speak out, and each new story was worse than the last. The real flood began when more people who said they were part of the crew or extras saw that first post and started sharing what they went through. With every new story, the set of Tangerines started to sound less like a professional shoot and more like a survival show without the cameras. If you're interested in getting to know what's truly going on behind the scenes of shows like When Life Gives You Tangerines, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos just like this. Now, one person who said they helped out as a driver shared a bleak story of a show trying to save money at all costs. Even though the drama had a jaw-dropping $60 billion budget, this person said they were never paid for stepping in to drive when there weren't enough drivers. On top of that, they were yelled at. They wondered how a show with such a big budget could be so stingy. Apparently, the production tried to save money everywhere, from skipping rental fees to avoiding paying for overtime. That meant workers had to drive across many faraway locations like Jeonju, Beoljeol, and Andong, basically a tour of Korea on back-to-back days with no place to sleep. After long days of travel and filming, their dinner was just a burger and soda, and there was no warm place to wait. They had to spend hours outside in the freezing cold between scenes. If this already sounds bad, sadly, we're just getting started. As more people spoke up, one clear theme stood out. The When Life Gives You Tangerines team seemed more focused on saving money than treating people decently. They weren't just cutting corners, they were slashing them. And the people who got the worst of it? The background actors. Their stories would turn this from a quiet complaint to a headline-making controversy. Now, for the most shocking part. A number of extras and background actors came forward with stories that left fans speechless. Several anonymous posts claimed that working as an extra on Tangerines was a nightmare. One person even said it was the one gig everyone in the industry tried to avoid. The show had a reputation for long hours and bad treatment. So, what exactly happened? Let's break down what these extras said. Maybe the most shocking claim was that extras were told to shave their heads for the show. Why? Because wigs or styled hair were seen as too much work or too expensive. The crew didn't want to deal with putting wigs over people's real hair, so they just told them to cut it off. One whistleblower was furious. How can you make someone shave or cut their hair just because it's hard to put on a wig? They said this was way too extreme, especially for a show with a big budget. Another source said the crew claimed wigs were too hard to handle, so the hair had to go. There was no compromise, no kindness, just a strict order that left many extras shocked and embarrassed. Since the story takes place over several decades, they had to shoot through cold winter months, often outside, but extras said they weren't given proper protection from the freezing weather. Older background actors were left outside for hours in thin costumes. They couldn't even wear their own coats or thermal layers underneath because the costume team said it would mess up how the clothes looked on camera. Because of that, extras described standing there shaking from the cold, trying to get through their scenes while their fingers and toes went numb. Even more unbelievable, this huge production didn't offer proper meals or breaks for the extras. Forget fancy food trucks or buffets. The extras said there was no catering at all. Instead, they were taken to random local places and told to eat whatever they could in 30 minutes before rushing back. One person said there wasn't even a tea or snack station available, and basic things like water, heat, and shelter were missing. During one shoot in the snow, there was no heating outside until one of the main actors noticed and kindly led the freezing extras over to a stove so they could warm up. To sum it up, one extra said it felt like being treated like a slave on set. They said it was like only the stars mattered, and everyone else was just a background object. Other than the main cast, the production didn't want to spend money on anyone else. It was all about saving every penny. Some even said the team's stinginess went as far as letting the extras go hungry on long, cold shooting days. They had no food, no rest, and nowhere to warm up. That's why so many people kept using the word slaves. It might sound extreme, but once you hear these stories, you understand why they felt that way. When you put it all together, these stories show a very toxic work environment where people at the bottom of the call sheet were pushed to their breaking point, both physically and mentally. It's nothing like the shiny, glamorous life you see in K-dramas. One person online said, "Who even notices what background actors are wearing? This is modern-day slavery." The shocking details made this story spread like wildfire. Fans were heartbroken, thinking that while they were enjoying a touching love story, real people may have suffered just to make it happen. As these disturbing reports went viral on X and other forums, the public got angry. K-drama fans and everyday viewers alike started asking questions. How could Netflix, with all its power, let this happen? Was it all real, or were people just exaggerating? The pressure was on for the show's producers and for Netflix to say something. At first, the When Life Gives You Tangerines production team said nothing. No statements, no apologies. That silence only made people more upset. More and more shared the stories. Viewers began tagging Netflix on social media, demanding they investigate and do something. Netflix funded the show and promoted it all over the world. People believed they had a duty to make sure people were treated fairly behind the scenes. Eventually, Netflix Korea gave a statement. On May 28th, a Netflix spokesperson told the media that they were looking into the issue and checking the facts behind the complaints. Netflix said they were working with their Korean partners to make things better and that they'd carefully review the situation to stop this from happening again. They didn't confirm any details while the investigation was still going. But you can imagine there were some very serious talks happening between Netflix and the drama's producers. How did a huge budget, global project end up facing these kinds of accusations? One important detail: none of the anonymous people had been confirmed as actual cast or crew yet when the news came out. Some doubters wondered if these were just bitter outsiders or internet trolls. But the number of different stories and how much they matched made them feel very real. It would be hard to fake so many similar claims unless there was truth behind them. And the fact that Netflix responded seriously, that said a lot. This wasn't just an internet rumor, it was becoming a full-blown PR disaster. As of now, Netflix's investigation is still happening, and people are waiting to hear what comes next. Will Netflix and the Korean authorities find proof and hold someone responsible, or will it all fade away online? There's a lot on the line. For starters, the show's reputation is at stake. It could go from an award-winning hit to being remembered as a show where people were mistreated if the truth isn't handled right. Already, news outlets around the world have picked up the story and are demanding answers. The production team has a lot of explaining to do. If they really made extras shave their heads, let people go hungry, and left older actors in the freezing cold, then saying sorry won't be enough. This could lead to lawsuits, government investigations in Korea, and maybe even new rules to protect extras in the future. Hopefully, something good can come out of this. Maybe this scandal will finally push the industry to make sure people are treated better, whether they're working on a Netflix set or not.